Well, there's going to be a new champion inside the UHL in 2009. Welcome to Inside the UHL. Now, before we get started, I think it's safe to say that the best game ever, the most epic game ever, and the best upset ever in the UHL. Just a phenomenal game. The bottom 8 defeating the top 8 in overtime, 8-7, in what was absolutely a thriller. We talked about how the best game was last year in the semifinals, but I think that this replaces it, as this was just a great game. 3-0 after the first period for the bottom 8, then 5-4 for the top 8 after 2, and then 7-7 at the end of regulation. And then 4 minutes and 15 seconds into the overtime, Doug MacLean with a slap shot that ends it. A lot of people thought it was tipped by Shuli Dong, but it wasn't. But we'll get to more on the game. Let's first talk about why the bottom 8 won. And as we talked about the keys to victory, the first one, Greg Davio, had to be outstanding, and he was. Making save after save. He was complaining about a bad glove and how his glove wasn't catching very well. Well, he was able to adapt to that and start pushing out rebounds in different directions. Another reason why they won, Doug MacLean had to play like the MVP that he is, and he definitely delivered. Of course, scoring the overtime winner, but just controlling the game and making his players better. He was able to set up Shuli numerous times. He was able to even set up Scott. He was just controlling the game and was able to control the flow of the game. And then when we talked about secondary step-ups like Shuli Dong, boy oh boy did that ever happen. Shuli Dong with the best game of his career by far, I think. He just played outstanding. I mean, what everyone's talking about still is that deke on Ed that absolutely left him looking for his jock up in the bleachers. It was just a great deke, and Shuli Dong played an absolutely amazing game. He had shots after shots that were just about going in. I mean, you don't expect that from Shuli Dong, but he played amazing. And then you even look at Nak Him, a great defensive presence. I can't count how many shots he blocked, but he just played a great game, and this team all around had a great game. And let's not forget Scott Stim. I mean, the guy comes out, he was really pissed off about his situation going into this playoffs and how he didn't really have many points, but he stepped up and he played an amazing game. Had at least 3, maybe even 4 goals. He was dehydrated and he just played incredible. He played the best game I've ever seen him play. And let's just give a bam to all of them. A great game, an unbelievable upset. No one really thought that this would happen. I mean, Kevin Lee thought before the game that this was in the bag, and he really took it for granted. And expect the unexpected, and it's upset city all over again as a great game. Now let's talk about why, not so much why the bottom 8 won, but why the top 8 lost. One thing that you got to keep in mind is that Greg Davio isn't very good down low. He doesn't like to do a butterfly stance. And so one of the keys is to shoot down low on him, and the top 8 really didn't do that. They were shooting high, allowing him to use the glove and swap it out of the way. So, that's a problem. But even when they did get shots down low, there was the problem that no one was in front to get that garbage rebound goal. And you look at Kevin Lee this year, and that's what he's done. He's cherry-picked, and he's been right there. But he wasn't this year, and I think what may have happened is Greg Davio's intimidation factor may have really gotten to Kevin Lee, because he was nowhere near the net. And any time the ball went down low, Greg went out and challenged, Greg the goalie went out and challenged Kevin Lee. And I think the intimidation factor really got to Kevin, and he was not able to play his regular game. Then looking on the defensive end, we talk about the overtime goal, and what a lot of people are talking about right now is that change by Edward Dodsworth. A complete flop, a complete lack of thinking. It was just a brutal goal. We learn in novice hockey, you don't change when the ball or puck is in your own zone, yet he did that, and Doug MacLean was able to walk in, take a slap shot. Riley could only stand and try to block, and he tried to do that. Maybe set the screen. Matt didn't see, maybe. It's still unclear, but, just a bad change on Ed's part, and he's getting a lot of grief for that last goal, and it was just, he made a bad change, and you feel sorry for the guy because he put his heart into the game and he was playing tough, and he thought he was having the greatest game of his life, and then just the final thing just ends it for him, and a really tough end for a game. And as for Riley Bell, he actually played a really good game. He tried really hard, and I mean, but this is just the end of a disappointing season for him, where he defending champ just can get on a roll. But he played a solid game, and we look at Nick Lai, and he played a solid game too. You gotta look at Greg McMillan though. He really struggled in this game. Greg McMillan, the President's Trophy leader, taking slap shots from behind the net. Are those passes or are those shots? And if they're shots, how are they gonna get in? Greg McMillan really struggled. He did not play good at all. He played pretty poorly, and I mean, you look at the whole team overall, and the team chemistry was kind of not there. Guys were getting mad at each other, so a lot of question marks on this team, and unfortunately this ends a really tough season for them, or a great season and a tough playoffs. But we look to the future, and we look at the bottom 8 and this great team. I mean, they may not have the most highly skilled players, but they had what the top 8 didn't have, and that was a great team chemistry. It really was, and that's huge in this day and age. Is that you got to have team chemistry, and they didn't have skilled players, but they had Nak Kim and they had Shuli Dong, but they still came together, and even though they didn't have any subs, they were still able to manage out this win. But let's just go back to the game. It was just a great game. Everyone tried, everyone put their heart into it, and everybody wanted to move on, and I thank everyone for showing up. It was just a great game overall. Now we got to move, controversy never leaves the UHL. We got to move on to the controversial play, the hand pass. In the third period, Nick Lai with a hand pass in his own zone. Now, that is legal, the hand pass in the own zone. What is illegal is hand passing it to the offensive zone, and that's where the confusion started. There was a hand pass in the offensive zone, but as it rules states, you can't do that. And even looking at the ODHA rulebook, Rule 17D states that the hand pass, if it leads to the offensive zone, is illegal. So, a tough play. At the time it was thought to be a goal by Ed, but it was just a tough play and a tough call. Not many people saw it. There was a lot of confusion, but that's just how it is. And controversy never goes away from this league. It never does. Anyways, we look to the future, and we look to August 4th, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. That is where the top 4 versus bottom 4 is. And it will be Greg Davio, Scott Sim, Doug McLean, and Henry Chen versus Shuli Dong, Nak Him, Arjun Bowery, Richard Zhang. And the goalies for this will be Edward and Nick Lai. Now, you look at these teams and you say, well, definite win for the top 4, but don't count anything out. With Ed or Nick being in net, they could stand on their head for this team, and then Shuli could have a great game again. Nak could even put the ball in. Who knows? This is definitely not over, and we hope to see you all there. I know some players in the top 8 are pretty bitter about how it ended, but we hope to see you there. It's going to be a great game. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the quarterfinals.